Okay, good morning. We are starting today Eiver min HaChai. We're doing Siman Samech Bet. And so let's start right away. Let's start with Aleph. Seif Aleph. Eiver min HaChai. Aser v'behema chaya v'of. So we're all familiar with the phrase Eiver min HaChai. The animal is still alive, and one severs one of the limbs, and if he wants to eat it, cook it and eat it, whatever it is, Asr, it's 100%, there's an Isser, it's a lav, it's Isser deraisa, to eat such a part of an animal while the animal is still alive, even after it's dead, rather. Once it's taken off while it's alive, that item, the Eiver, is Eiver min HaChai, even if later on the animal dies. And it's Asr bebehema chaya va'of. It's Asr by whether it's an animal, any kind of an domesticated, right, or a wild, or even birds. Okay, so just a couple points on this. It's pashut from the Gemara that everyone holds. You got malchus if one eats a kazayas of Eiver min HaChai. Now, just to step back, just interesting to point out, nowhere in the Chumash will you find the words Eiver min HaChai. That's Lashon Chazal, it's what we're used to. However, it's learned from a pasuk. If you look in the Be'er Agola in Bet, it quotes the pasuk from Devarim Yud Bet, Kaf Gimel, Lo tochal hanefesh im habasar. So that's Eiver min HaChai. And the pasuk writes, "Lo tochal hanefesh im habasar." That's the pasuk that says Eiver min HaChai is aser. And if you look, a bit of back and forth to help understand it. If you just quickly read the Gemara or the Shulchan Aruch, this mitzvah is a little bit hard to. The parameters are a little bit confusing. Just take a peek in the middle of Bet. There's the words Ubasar Basadeh Treifa. That's from Shmot Kaf Bet Lamed. Those are the three words that teach you that Basar min HaChai is Asr, and that's also a lav. Two separate lavim. We might think of them as Eiver min HaChai, both, but really technically there's one lav of Eiver min HaChai and one lav of Basar min HaChai, and they're learned from two different psukim. Okay, very far apart from each other. So, at least through the lens of the Rambam and Aruch HaShulchan and some others, you definitely get Malchus twice. If, in order to be chayav the lav of Eiver min HaChai, one must eat a piece, it has to be a kazait, and it must be intact, it can't be cut into pieces. In other words, well, let me explain. It has to be an intact kazait of, it doesn't have to be a complete shalim Eiver, but it does have to be a complete kazait that includes basar, etzem, and gidin, the blood vessels, the flesh, and bone. If you eat all three items in one bite and they're still all together, they weren't dissected and separated from each other, so then one can be chayav the love of Eiver min HaChai. Basar min HaChai is if you eat the flesh, just the meat itself, and that is, one second. Well, here. And so if you eat basar min HaChai, that's a kazait of the meat. Now, if in one bite, or you could even, if you eat an Eiver min HaChai and it has meat in there, enough flesh at the same bite, or probably toch kedei achilas pras, if you have a piece of meat, from that piece you can be chayav two lavim, because you ate together the basar, etzem, and gidin, and you had basar, and then you could be chayav two. If you only have whatever, so that's that. Everyone holds there's chatzi shir on this one. So even if you eat a tiny little bit, it will be chayav you won't be chayav a lav, malchus, but you'll be chayav an issa deraisa. That's even if you eat any amount of any of these items.
It's not that
In order to be chayav the lav, I'm assuming it's like any achila, it has to be kedei achilas pras, but there's a special din by Eiver min HaChai that you have to have all three items together. Again, I'm not saying everyone would agree with this, but that's certainly. So if you eat one at a time, you'll be chatzi shir, and it will not be a lav of Eiver min HaChai. Again, at least that's the Rambam and Aruch HaShulchan. Okay, through the two of them. Then, I just want to point out that for Tamei mitzvos, Eiver min HaChai, probably it's intuitive. The Chinuch, for example, writes that Shechita is to teach us not to be cruel and to have tzar and to be sensitive to tzar ba'alei chaim. And Eiver min HaChai, eating from the animal while it's still alive, is the greatest of cruelty. So that's obviously what it's trying to, the time of the mitzvah is to teach us not to be cruel. Okay, a little bit more detail. Now, so we said, oaf, but the Shach points out, it's Davar Pashut from the poskim, not including dagim and chagavim. So there's no Eiver min HaChai to eat part of a fish or a whatever the kosher chagavim are.
even though chagavim are more.
Okay.
Is a guy eating lobster alive?
So lobster, I think we call that fish, and it wouldn't be an issue. So here's another halacha. So it's also from the Gemara. Tahorim, again, you're not going to see this in the straight Shulchan Aruch, but Tahorim, the halacha of Eiver min HaChai only applies to kosher animals. Okay? That's a din clear. However, for Goyim, there's a machloket. Here, let me just finish. Here, fine. So we'll say like this. What about, so if it's for for Jews, if it's a tamei animal, okay, it's not kosher. There's a non-starter, but if one eats it, there's no lav of Eiver min HaChai. That's what we're learning right now. But what about for non-Jews? So the Bach says it's mutter for non-Jews, but many, including the Shach, say no. The same iser it applies for. Right, the Shach writes it's aser tamei for non-Jews. Okay, so how does that come up? The Taz also says that, I think. No. The Taz agrees that it's not a problem for non-Jews. How is this relevant? If you look in the Taz, he talks about lifnei Eiver. So here it's clear that the Taz and Shach would say, if it's mutter for you, this is just an interesting side point of lifnei Eiver, if anything is mutter for you, but aser for the non-Jew or aser for the other person, then because it's not a machlokus of I hold it's mutter for everybody and he holds it's aser for everybody. Simple case. We all agree it's mutter for me, aser for you. So is there lifnei Eiver in such a case? So the Shach and Taz says yes, there is lifnei Eiver because for him we all agree it's aser. I think it's intuitive, but if happens to be, if you look in the Pischei Tshuva, he discusses the topic, and he does quote from the Tshuvas Emunah Shmuel, who holds that it's mutter, since the person himself, it's mutter for him, so he's allowed to give it to someone else. So, right, so there's a whole discussion. Very well. Back and forth. Ayin Sham, it's in the Pischei Tshuva Gimel. Different opinions. We'll leave it at that. Just wanted to throw some interest there. And so that's for Lifnei Eiver. Um, right. The Bach also holds there's a problem. So, anyways, there's what to discuss on that one. As far as I know, it only applies to animals. As far as I know, you're asking for non-Jews as well. As far as I know, and that's what it seems from the Nosei Kalim, it's only for non-Jews. It's only for animals. That was your question. And what else did I want to point out? Okay, we're going to touch upon this. It won't be as clear. Eiver min HaChai. So it applies to limbs that have bone, blood vessels, and muscle. It also applies to fleshy organs, even if there's no bone whatsoever. So if a person takes an animal, for example, tongue, spleen, kidneys, beitzim, testicles, the heart, all these items are also going to be Eiver min HaChai. You would, because this item doesn't have an etzem. It's shalim, and that's its normal. What's shalim? And let's save that for later. Okay, let's read bet inside. Bet. Eiver haporesh min HaChai. Right, so the eiver, the limb, gets removed from the live animal. It's severed. It's asar. Ubasar haporesh min HaChai, asar mishum ubasar basadeh treifa. Okay, so those are the two potential lavin. Vafilu haporesh me'abehema. So listen to this. It gets severed from the animal, but v'adayin hi betocha. But it's still inside. It could be the abdominal cavity. It's just inside the skin of the animal. Didn't leave the animal. It's still inside the animal, right? Okay. Kegon shenechtach me'atcho o me'aklayot v'nishara hachaticha betocha asur. So, for example, we know that a spleen or a kidney, it's severed, and those items don't make it into a treifa. We're not going to review. If you look in Nun Hey or Nun Dalid or Samech Dalid, a couple simanim, you see a couple back and forth references. But there's certain organs that if they're missing, it doesn't make it a treifa. So the animal is still kosher. These items got severed, but they're rolling around, they're loose inside the animal, whatever. V'nishara chaticha betocha aser. So these body parts, since they're severed, it's eiver minach. You shech the animal, the whole animal is kosher, and then you pull out the tchol and the klayot. You can't eat those two items.
It's not Eiver min HaChai. It's possible, but so that treifa.
Shachei. He says the words aser eiver min HaChai. Shechatach me'abasar. So, no. So, if it's a whole organ, if you eat it from an organ that normally has no etzem, it's eiver min HaChai. Maybe it's two lavin. If you eat, it is two lavin. If you take a piece of meat, the shach adds, and if you were to sever a piece of meat from the animal and leave it inside the animal, you don't never take it out, or you take it out. It doesn't matter. You take it out, or it's inside. It's a piece of meat, a piece of the arm. All right, just the muscle. Even though it's still inside, that's also an isser of ubasar treifa.
Right, not Eiver.
That's a piece of meat. A meat is basar min HaChai. It would only be a piece of meat would not be eiver min HaChai without the etzem or gidin, unless it normally doesn't have. But these organs, since they don't normally have etzem, I believe the blood. You still need the blood vessels, I believe. Okay, I haven't seen anyone who gets into that detail.
The whole thing.
No, just a kazayas.
Even after sheep, if these things were disconnected inside the animal while it was alive, even after sheep, it's also.
Correct. The whole animal would be a kshera if it is, but those two organs, since they're rolling around, it's asr to eat them midin eiver min HaChai, or both eiver min HaChai and basar min HaChai. The shechita is not matir, but it's already eiver min HaChai. in the case that it's already been severed before you did the shechita. Right? I don't think it's so common, but if that's the case, okay. I know what the shachad is. He's saying if you take a piece of meat, he's not talking about the tchol and the klayot. Okay, let's go on. Gimel. Gimel. Eiver o basar hamadul dalim. Okay, so now we had completely attached or completely severed. Now we're going to have where it's partially severed. The eiver or a piece of meat from the bone, a basar hamadul dalim. So then, im enu yachol lachzor v'lichyot, afili im lo piresh mimenu ad la'achar shchita asa. So now the criteria is very simple. It depends if it can heal itself. Do you expect this severed organ? It's partially severed, but it can strengthen its attachment and it can heal itself. Or it's not going to heal itself. That's the defining factor. Nothing else. Okay. Even if it's still partially attached and it's inside the animal until the shechita is over, asur. It's still asur because it's partially detached and it's not going to heal itself. Now this gimel, this halacha of sif gimel, is an isur darabanan. An isur daraisa, it has to be completely severed. Isur darabanan is if it's partially severed and it's not going to heal. Right? That's in your shach tet, but it's in other places as well. Let's go on. Okay. Yitra ta'omid v'makom she'eno matrif ha'behema muter la'achlo v'lo minan yeter kenatul dami v'have ke'ever ha'medulda. Okay. So the Rama says, what happens if you have an extra organ? So then it depends. If it's going to make it, if it makes it a treifa, so the whole animal is a treifa, it's a non-starter. But there are some organs where if it's an extra one, so even though, okay, so if there's an extra one, we don't say as if it's not there, and therefore, it does not turn it into Eiver min HaChai. It's pretty, at first it's intuitive. You open up, you shecht an animal, there's another, it's totally healthy, there's an extra organ. Make sure it doesn't make it a treifa. Sometimes an extra one will make it a treifa. If it doesn't make the whole animal into a treifa, it's 100% kosher. We don't say the principle of, it's as if it's already detached. It's a drasha for the helchas treifa, but it has no bearing on Eiver min HaChai. It's attached. You can eat it after you shech the animal. No problem. Okay. Eiver, and there's no, right. And there's no minhag against it. Eiver hanishmat b'makomo, b'makom she'eno matrif ha'behema, muter la'ochlo af im ein or ubasar chofin rubo, aval minhag lahachmer gam bazeh. So here, the Rama has another astringency. If a bone, a limb, gets dislocated, it's 100% not severed. We're not talking about severed. It has all of its tendons, ligaments, blood vessels. But it got pulled out of its socket or just pulled apart from the joint. It's dislocated. So then, also nishbar is not Eiver min HaChai. That's also in the Taz and others. A broken, fractured limb does not turn it into Eiver min HaChai. Okay, if it's a treifa or not, that's Hilchos Treifos. It's definitely not Eiver min HaChai. Now, if it's dislocated, also, it's not severed. It's 100% not Eiver min HaChai. Midin, there's no shaila. However, the Rama, and again, it doesn't matter if it's covered or not covered, it's not severed, and therefore it's 100% kosher. However, because of the minhag, it's the Rama writes it's asur miya minhag because it resembles being partially severed. So that's the minhag became against it. I'll just go from the Kaf HaChaim. He writes from the Knesset HaGadol that it's mutter lechatchila for Sfardim, and he quotes the Beis David who says it's b'diavad, it's mutter even for Ashkenazim. Like if you cooked with it and it's too late to separate it, it's okay, because it's just a minhag lechatchila. Okay, Dalit.
saying that Nishba is a problem?
No, he's saying it's not a problem. Right, nishmat is a problem. Nishmat is a problem according to the Rama, but nishbar is 100% not a problem. We can discuss it after. Okay. Dalid, let's finish here. Beitzim, Beitzei Zachar, Shenit Lashu. So now you have the male animal, the testicles they're severed, but they're still inside. V'adayin hem me'urim b'kisam. But they're still covered up, they're still inside the scrotum, the kis. Eino aser minatara. It's not asur minatora yet, shehere yeshbo miktas chius, because they still have some attachment. I guess blood vessels, something. They're still attached on some level. Lefichach eno masriach, it doesn't become putrid. Afal pi chein asur leochlo miminag shenagu Yisrael. Now, this is an earlier minag for both Sfardim and Ashkenazim, that if the beitzim are severed, except they're still a little bit attached, that's going to be 100% asur miminag. Because it's similar to Eiver min HaChai. The Kaf HaChaim says, for those who are interested, you can give these beitzim to your non-Jewish friend, because they don't have this minhag, so that's okay. And if one, Aruch HaShulchan just points out, probably it's obvious, if one of them is severed and one of them is not, so the one that's severed is asur, at least for Jews, and the one that's not severed is kosher. And he points out that, just remember, when the halacha of ma'uch v'katut regarding an animal makes it pasul for a korban, but it doesn't make chulin treif. So it's only midin minhag, it's an issue. Okay, and maybe we'll stop. Is this it? Yeah, we'll stop here.